I will go ahead and start today and introduce our two panelists that are here, and then the panelist who is coming. She's coming from off campus, and so I'm guessing she's trying to negotiate parking and getting in the rain. We have today 3 graduates of our program that are going to talk to you a little bit about what you can do with a degree in communication. So I've asked each panelist, I'll introduce them very briefly, and then each panelist will talk about the career trajectory that where their degree has taken them, and then we'll open it up for questions. And so our first panelist is Chad Mosher. He graduated from the department in 1994. A long time ago. I had Chad in class. And today he is the Associate Director of the Union Building, and he's had several different careers, different jobs in between. And then our next panelist is Drew Tyler, and Drew he graduated in 2001 in electronic media. Chad graduated in public relations, and Drew is currently a faculty member here in the department, but he's had an interesting series of jobs in the industry before coming to work in the department, and I thought you'd be interested in hearing about that. And then our third panelist is Natalie Clemens, and Natalie graduated in 2003, I believe. Natalie got her degree in journalism, and she is currently working at MarketStar in charge of social media, but she started out in journalism and moved to PR. So with that, I'll turn the time over first to Chad to talk a little bit about his career, and then Drew, and then Natalie should be here.
All right. Great, thanks. Great to be here. Yeah, you never know what your life path is going to take, and it's really interesting to have these opportunities to look back and go, wow, that's a bit crazy. So hopefully I can give you some insights on good things and not so good things. But anyways, I graduated in '94, and one of the first things I did, I had a sister who lived in California, and she told me I needed to move to a big city. So I moved to the big city where she was living, San Francisco, and I thought, all right, I'll just take the PR world by storm. And unfortunately, the job I got was due to, I worked at a warehouse, and I ended up working for an investment firm that needed someone to warehouse computers. And worked my way up there and ended up using my PR skills to work with a lot of people, and I interacted and was sort of the face of the IT department, and I'd interact with all their customers. If I had about 500 customers or 500 staff at the location that I worked. After that, I decided to move back to Utah and ended up working at the Ogden Eccles Conference Center, and that's where I was able to use my PR skills. Ended up doing a lot of sales for them, and I also, how I paid my way at Weber State, I was in the student government, and I threw the special events, so everything from the homecoming dances to the big parties. And I had a love for that, and I ended up turning it into a career. While I was at the conference center, I found there were people who needed people to throw events for them, and so I started doing that on the side. I started my own company, Creative Genius Special Events. And that was really awesome. I did a lot of events for iOmega when iOmega was doing really well. And then when they were doing not so well, I found that my business wasn't doing so good. So I decided to work for another firm, and I got on with Modern Display. A lot of you might be familiar with them. They're in Salt Lake and have been around for about 50 years. They do a lot of special events and corporate special events, and I really enjoyed working there. From there I went to a company called DesignWorks, which also did a lot of special events. And I was in charge of all their special events, from marketing, getting the customers, servicing the customers, to throwing the event. And so I found that my PR degree helped a lot because I was constantly interacting with people. And then from both the sales point to also at the end when I had to collect the money and do it in a good way so that people would feel comfortable to come back to me for future business. I had a lot of fun doing that. But then I got tired of late nights, and which happens when you're throwing big events. And an opportunity came open here at Weber State in their conference service department. And so I started there, and a lot of it was marketing. It was getting new business. What we do is we basically sell the housing and the food service during the summer when all the students are gone and it's really slow. We bring business in, a lot of summer camps. World Archery is one of the big ones we have this year. We have Boys State, a lot of different groups. And so had a lot of fun. I now have more of a mentoring role on special events. I work with a lot of the student government, special event people now, and help them throw events and do it in a good way. And I take them on what I call the special event party tour, or all the places Chad's worked in Utah, and we go and we visit all of the rental houses and the special event places through Utah so that they can see what's available, and I teach them how to use those events to create some really good celebration type events. I feel that's an important thing, is how we celebrate and how we do it in a good way and how we communicate, so we can not only put on good events but have people attend them, which is a huge part of how the marketing and the public relations goes into that. So that's why I've currently been here about 6 years, and I love it. So I've really enjoyed my PR degree. It's really helped me do a variety of things, as you can probably tell from what I've said, and it's been very versatile. And I'm currently getting ready to start the Master's in Professional Communications, so looking forward to that. That's my story.
Thanks.
Over to you, Drew.
Yay, you survived. I'm here. Myself, I'm an electronic media major from 2001. Not sure, how I really got into it, other than I was chasing a hot girl. Turned out for the best, because I married said hot girl, and we are 10 years into a wonderful marriage. And she herself was an electronic media major, more on the front side of the camera, and I found myself at the back side of the camera. She got me my first job because she was working at Channel 4 as associate producer, and she happened to tell somebody, hey, my husband knows how to edit. Because we had just barely learned in school how to do tape-to-tape editing, and so they were like, oh really, he knows how? We'll have him come in. So that was a who you know type of job instance, but as soon as I got that first job editing at Channel 4, I was hooked. It was just a blast. The deadlines, the daily deadlines. So I was an editor there. Photographers would bring a tape in from some body floating in a river, and it was my job to pick the best shots of the death and destruction and put it together. Right? That's all news is, right? I did that for a couple of years, and then decided that there was not enough creativity for me, because it was very, you watch news, it's a lot of straight cuts, and it's a certain type of shot. It's a wide shot, it's a medium shot, it's a tight shot, and then you go back. Not a lot of creativity, not a lot of effects. You don't see anybody animating or doing compositions in news, not very often. So I left, and I went to a small little TV show called At Your Leisure. This is back in 2003, I think. At Your Leisure was run by one guy who said, I'm going to do 52 episodes of an outdoor recreation show. And so he and I put together 52 episodes a week, and that's 30 minutes of original content every week between two people, one of which didn't know anything about what he was doing. So then I left that one, and I went to California. Just kidding, he knows a lot. My wife and I went to California to get a job, again in news, because surprisingly, and it's a long story of how that job came about, maybe someday I'll tell you, but we wanted to get out of town. She wanted to do more what we call FaceTime. She wanted to get in front of the camera. Here in Salt Lake, she was producing. She had offers to go to Channel 2 and some other places, but then we got a call from California that said, hey, I hear you're a producer, award-winning producer, and your husband edits and shoots, and you want some time to learn how to be a reporter and get some FaceTime. You guys want to fly out to Bakersfield, California. And we said, that sounds like an adventure, let's do it. So within 2 weeks, we packed up our bags and moved to Bakersfield. 2 weeks later, we bought a house and settled in, and we were working for Channel 29 out there, which was tremendous. We did 2 years, two-year contract. I did a little radio while I was out there as well. I did radio here. I kind of moonlighted at X96 for a year or so, and then when I got out there and I was doing TV, I just missed the radio part of it. So I got kind of a pickup Saturday job on the radio, playing the pop hits for the kiddies. Not my kind of music, so it didn't last much longer than a year. But out there at that station, kind of a smaller station, we were known as Team Utah. Because for them, they're thinking, you guys know about demographics and kind of, if you've had any intro to math class, you know that they have ratings for the markets. Salt Lake's in the 30s, Bakersfield is 130. So we're 100 markets down, but when they saw that they were getting, 2 heavy hitters, even though we're newly out of college almost, they called us Team Utah, and they're really happy to have these kind of, bigger fish in the pond, but really we weren't even that great, we just came from a big city. But we enjoyed our time there. Not only did I edit, but I learned how to shoot, how to direct, how to do graphics, and work in promotions. So I did all of those things in one station. And when our 2 years were up, we came home just to start family and do all that silly stuff with cute kids. Did I mention I make beautiful babies? I don't know if I mentioned that. When we got back to town, my wife went to Channel 2 to do some producing, and I could not bring myself to go back into news because I'd just done 2 years of news, and again, I wanted that creativity again. I wanted that ability to kind of get out and do things. So I went back to At Your Leisure, and I produced the show this time. Instead of just being kind of a grunt worker, I called the shots. I made sure that whatever stories we were covering made sense to our viewers. I made the website. I mean, it was still kind of a one-man band, but we had a little larger crew, so I had some shooters and editors that we could kind of sort things out. And that's where I got kind of a managerial position. I was able to kind of say, okay, what do we want to cover in the next 3 weeks? Well, we want to go snowboarding. We want to go snowshoeing. We want to ride some snowmobiles across this trail or that trail. And I could assign that to anybody. Of course, when the summer came, I'd say we want to go wakeboarding, and I'll be doing that story. All the fun things I got to do. That was fun. But all of that was a lot of self-learned stuff. The stuff I learned in school was, how to edit and shoot and kind of do the basics, framing, composition. But when I got into the job at Your Leisure, especially the producing side of it, I had a chance to kind of evolve that into more of a storytelling. I mean, that became really apparent to me that I needed to be able to tell a story. From At Your Leisure, I went and got my graduate degree and did I've done a lot of on-the-side freelance work of corporate videos, you name it. I've done music videos, anything but wedding videos, anything but. And that has just kind of continued to help me to get clients and to use the skills that I have, which is, now I realize, it's very blatant to me now, it's telling stories with a digital medium, being able to put pictures together to tell a story and convey emotion and information. And so now that I'm back here at Weber teaching all of this stuff, it's what I love. I love teaching people how to tell stories, how to shoot good, and how to put all that information into something short and small, and how to get a good, clean picture out of it. And then the whole online world. I mean, I don't know if you guys realize, but YouTube's only like 5 or 6 years old. It's quite a young company, and the idea of internet video is still kind of in its infancy. But that's been my passion for the last couple of years, is figuring out how to deliver that video online and help people to reach their audiences there, as well as broadcast. So I have kind of that diverse background where I know a lot about the broadcast world and a lot about distributing online. And so here I am. There you are. Is that good? Yeah.
That's great. Thanks.
Right.
So first of all, oh dear, I'd like to. Thanks. So I'd like to apologize for being late. I'm not used to parking up here without an A1 parking pass. No. So Kathy just wanted me to say a few things about my background, as these guys have done. So I graduated in 2005 with a journalism degree, and I started off at the Signpost as a 2890 student. I don't know if they have that class anymore. But I did that my sophomore year, my second semester, and just kind of deciding if that's what I wanted to do. I hadn't ever taken communication or journalism classes before. I didn't do it in high school. Nothing like that. So I thought, well, I'll try it and see. So I took that class, really liked it, and so I applied to be the news editor for my junior year. So my junior year, I got that position. Worked there at the Signpost as a news editor, and then the next year I applied to be editor-in-chief and worked there as editor-in-chief my senior year. And also my senior year, I did an internship with the Utah State Fair doing public relations, and that was really fun. I really love the State Fair anyway. We would go every year with me and my friends. So to be able to go and work there every day during the summer and to write press releases for them and to go, we would take the news media around to the fair, like Channel 4, Channel 5, whatever would come in. We'd take them to show them big events like the cow or the yellow slide and see if they wanted to film them. That was really fun to promote the fair. And then also my senior year, I did some freelance work for the Davis County Clipper and wrote some articles for them just to try to get my foot in the door in a couple of different places. And then at the end of my senior year, I applied for an internship at the Deseret News. And I love the Deseret News. Like I said, I never really wanted to be a journalist when I was young, but I loved that newspaper. I loved reading it, and I thought, if I'm going to work somewhere, I want to work there. So I applied my junior year to do an internship there, went down, took the test, failed. It is super hard. And I almost cried on my way home because I really wanted to work there. And the questions on the test were almost ridiculous, and you don't know what to plan for. Like I think one year there was a question about, can you name all the counties in Utah and some of the county seats in this country? Some random questions, like how many rivers are in the United States? All of this random questions, just to try to weed out if people are watching the news, if they're following what's going on in Utah, where things are located in the state. So after that, I was really discouraged, and I thought, well, my senior year, I really wanted to work there again, but I didn't know if I wanted to take the test again. So I just started reading news a lot and watching the news, mostly reading it because I'm a big fan of reading it versus watching it. But a lot of times lately, I don't have time to read it, and watching it is a lot faster. So I would read a lot of news, and finally my senior year, I passed the test, you could say, and I got an internship at the Deseret News. So when I graduated from Weber State, I started about 2 or 3 weeks later at the Deseret News as an intern. And what they do is they rotate you each week during the summer doing a different beat. So you could be doing police, you could be doing health, I did courts, I did community. You get to cover every beat. Basically, you cover the beats where the reporters are on vacation. So you have to kind of know how to do a little bit about everything. So that was really fun. It exposed you to a lot of different aspects of the paper and a lot of different managers. And then at the end of my internship, they had an opening and they asked if I wanted to stay on full time. So I said yes, of course, because I love that paper. And I wrote for them for about a year, which I loved. And I wrote for the community section, which came out once a week, and it was focused on different counties. So there was a Davis County edition, there was Salt Lake County, and there was Provo. There were just different sections that would come in the middle of the paper once a week. So I would write for that. The thing I loved about that was being able to go out and find my own story ideas. When I did my internship, they would hand you a press release and say, will you cover this event? Or they would say, will you go to this news conference? And you just had to kind of go and write the story they told you to. But when I did the community, I had a lot more hands-on. I got to decide what we covered. I got to go to a lot of carnivals and family events, which was fun for me, and cover things that I found. So it was really exciting and fun. After I did that for about a year, I was 8 months pregnant with my first son, so I retired, you could say. So I went home, retired, and they let me freelance for them for another year. And I freelanced from home. Again, I got to find my own story ideas, write them, turn them in, and they would run them, and it was really easy and fun. And the idea behind the paper coming out once a week made it a lot easier for me to make my deadlines being a mom with a newborn baby. It wasn't like I had to go to the news story, write it, get it turned in all in one day. I had a few days to work on it when I could and turn it in. It was really fun and really nice. But at the end of that year, the paper got rid of the community sections as papers have been downsizing, and so they no longer had that section. So I decided I didn't think as a mom I could dedicate myself to writing for the daily paper because of the deadline, and it's a lot faster. And so I stopped writing for them for a while and haven't written for them since. But in February, I started at a new company. Well, not a new company, but I started a new position at a company in Ogden called MarketStar. And I do digital and social media for them. And they kind of came to me and asked if I would be willing to do it part-time from home. And that's one of the nice things about doing online writing and online social media type positions. You can do it from home. You can telecommute, well, if your company will let you, but you can do it at any time. My job is very flexible right now. I usually work from 6 to 8 in the morning, and then again in the afternoon while my kids are napping. So that way it doesn't really impact my personal life, but I can also dedicate myself to my work and not have to focus on half my kids, half of my job. So right now what I do for them is I work for their recruiting department, and I post positions to Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn for them, trying to generate new leads for people to apply, and trying to come up with new fans for our Facebook and Twitter pages, new groups to try to promote our social media presence. And I also occasionally write email campaigns. If we have a bunch of jobs we're trying to hire for, we'll send out a bunch of emails and try to see if we can find people to fill our jobs. So it's not writing news, but it's writing, and it's doing stuff online, which I don't know how much social media they talk about right now in communication classes, because I graduated, I don't know, 6 years ago, but things have quickly changed. And most of the positions I see now for public relations and social media are online. There's a lot of writing positions online now. I would argue, and I don't know if these guys would argue with me, that social media is an extension of PR, because I'm not really writing I'm not writing press releases, and I'm not sending them out to the news agencies in the state, but I am writing content for my company that people worldwide basically can see. Someone from Europe can get on our Market Start Jobs Facebook page and see what I'm writing. So it's promoting our company, whether it's through actual press releases or it's our presence on the social media sites. So I love it. I think it's really fun. I think it's fun to do at home and for a few hours a day. I miss writing news, but I don't have time for it right now. But I will say that I started writing a blog this past year because I missed writing so much. So if you guys come into a similar situation where you're not able to start writing immediately after graduation, or you already have a different position, and while you're waiting to get hired on at your favorite newspaper or at your favorite PR firm, start writing and keep writing, because if it's what you love, do it, and then you'll gain experience. Like my blog, it's free. It's free to host a blog. It's free to write about whatever you want to write about, and you're writing and you're out there, and it's something you can put on your resume to show that I'm still working, I'm still trying to grow, and I'm still developing my talents. I also edit a newsletter for a local company or a local organization, and that's something that I love to do, because when I worked at the Signpost, I got to do a lot of layout and design. I didn't get that at the Deseret News, because they have the reporters and then they have the designers. You don't do it both. So I love doing the newsletter. It allows me to design stuff. There are so many free and pro bono type things you can do out there to gain experience, so I'd highly recommend doing things like that. That's all I have to say about that.
Now we'll open it up for questions.
Good, thanks. Appreciate your time.
I actually have one question that I'd like for you all to talk about. One thing is this a 9-to-5 day? And Natalie has kind of answered about her current day. And what do you like most? What's the most challenging thing about your job or working in this field? And I'll throw that open to anyone.
Can I say something?
Sure.
I would say that although I'm only 20 hours a week part-time, most weeks it's more than that, because not only do I have to put in my time posting positions and writing things for our online sites, but I have to watch and see what people post back. So sometimes people could post back at 10 o'clock at night and I'll get an email saying, so-and-so replied on your Facebook page. Just last week we had some guy who posted some negative things on our Marty Carpenter Jobs page. And so I had to, you can't really wait. You have to get on and reply quickly. So that's probably a difficult thing with my job now, is most of the time I work 20 hours a week, but with social media, everyone can do it 24 hours a day. So if someone posts on some of our sites, I have to get on and reply quickly, especially if it's negative. So that way we can address it and try to resolve things.
Speaking in the industry, just I guess video production maybe in general. At a news station, there's no real 9 to 5. It's like you go 11 p.m. to 8 a.m. or you go from 2 p.m. to 11 p.m. Or the only 9 to 5 is really like 8 to 6. And that's why my wife's been staying home for the last couple of 3 or 4 years, is because there's no real part-time jobs in news. At least what she was doing, producing a TV show. They want that newscast producer to be there every day. They own that baby. So she hasn't been able to find, or hasn't really. She knows that it's not out there. You can't find a part-time job in the production side of news. On the other side, where I've worked in the industry, just to work on a TV show, it was 9 to 5 a.m. I mean, that was because it was our own show and we were in charge of our own advertisers. We made commercials for our advertisers. We were our own PR company for all of the people that bought time with us. That was almost a 24/7 job, because even though there were 3 or 4 of us on staff to create this one TV show, you couldn't go home until that show was done. So there were plenty of nights when our shows were, when I was there, they were supposed to be done by Friday nights. We could hand them over to the TV station. Many Friday nights, 8 or 9 o'clock at night, and we're still like typing out the captions because we had to transcribe everything and put the closed captioning on there. But it's something I love and have always loved. So when it comes to those those industry jobs, I'm okay with I have a pride in the product that we're presenting and we're producing, Even now when I teach, I have like a side gig or a freelance gig. I will come in and work overnights on my own just because I want to make sure that what I'm delivering is the best. It's just personal pride. I love creating things, and I like to make it sure it's really polished. The only time I've had a 9 to 5 is radio, and that was 9 p.m. to 5 a.m.
But I will say that when I started at the Deseret News, I was supposed to start on a Monday, and they called and said, we need you Saturday. It was Memorial Day weekend. We need you to cover an event at a cemetery. And it was my anniversary, and I was like, oh, this is so annoying. But I was grateful for the job and wanted to start. So I would say at a newspaper, in my experience, if something on your beat happened on the weekend or late at night or early in the morning, you had to go. It was your beat. You covered it.
And starting in TV news and even when we worked on our show, I don't remember having a holiday for many years. When we would, just because we were the low end of the totem pole, they would say, okay, you're working Christmas because these guys are taking it off. And that's just starting, and that's what we planned to do, and we were okay with that because we worked in the same place.
I was going to say, this is the most 9 to 5 job I've had. It's not 9 to 5 totally. During summers when we have our conferences in our heavy conference season, you're 16, 18-hour days, and so it just depends. Holidays, I'm in charge of the Weber State Parade float, just an oddball piece of PR. But so, my holiday weekend on my 24th of July for the past 5 years have been driving a float, which I was driving floats before then too. Again, another oddball PR piece. But one of the nice things is before, when I was doing events, as I alluded to before, it was, your early setup to taking down, midnight, 1 and 2 in the morning. Now I still do events, but I'm working with students, so 5 o'clock usually I'm like, see ya, call me if there's a problem. And I can't say that I've never not had a problem, so I can come in a lot or do stuff from the phone. So.
This one's for, what was
Sure.
your name?
Chad.
Chad? I know you had mentioned that you started out as kind of like some of the smaller marketing companies, or the PR companies and special events. How did you bridge that gap between college to working?
I know what I did wrong, so I can tell you that. I wish I had done more internships, and I think Natalie sort of expressed how that works into a job. And I didn't quite realize that. I didn't want to be a poor college student, so I worked at a factory full-time while I went to school full-time, and I wish I'd gone back and even taken a better PR job that may not have paid as well, but would have got me in a little bit better. Because then when I moved to the big city, a lot of them were like, great, you have a degree, but they were like looking more at my experience. And my minor was photography, so I had this great photography portfolio. But they still were, I think if I had had more internships that were meaty, that would have helped. So even though you may have to do it for free, I'd say definitely do it. Some of my other things, I just was able to work the sales portion of it. And I'd say my strongest points that I gleaned from my degree was the persuasive communication, how to persuade people, how to see what motivates them, and get inside their heads a little bit and respond to that. And that's probably been the best thing I've learned, and I've used that to get jobs like that. So I'd say get good internships. They'll help.
Thank you.
I'll throw a name in on that.
Yeah.
Can I just ask what journalism pays, like starting out?
Oh, well, I got paid like nothing, but in my situation, when I got paid at the Deseret News, my internship, I think, was $8 an hour, and this is 5 years ago, so it might be a little bit more now, I don't know. And then when they hired me full-time, I think it was like $9 an hour. And I was willing to do it because I knew I'm only going to work for a year because I was planning on starting my family, and my husband was working. And I thought, I've always wanted to work at this paper. I don't care if they pay me $1 an hour. I had the standard examiner kept coming and say, don't you want to write for us? And I'd be like, no. So I was willing to take less money because I wanted the position. So I don't know what they pay now. I was making $19,000 a year at full time. So
To add to that, 10 years ago, starting at Channel 4, my wife was making $25,000 as a producer, and I was making $27,000 as an editor. But those were starting positions. After I got my job editing, they didn't pick up just anybody. For some reason, after that point, about 6 months later, we hired 2 guys, but it was it was like editors that were coming from other stations. I was like one of the very few that were able to slip in there. Nowadays, because I do have quite a tab on the other stations and what they're hiring, I do know that Ford, who is hurting, offered a friend of mine out of Yakima, Washington, $30,000 to start, which is a lot for a producer in my mind, and especially for some of the students that are coming out of my classes going to work, still 24, 25. Which, I mean, you write like nonstop. It's like that deadline you're talking about. It's like, I got to write 40 stories today. It's insane.
So which communication careers do you think pay the best?
I would say
PR.
PR or social media. I make it as much now working part-time as I did working full-time at the Deseret News. And I can do it from home 6 a.m. or midnight. So I loved working at the paper. I would go back. Maybe I will once my kids are grown. But you have to realize that they don't pay as well. They don't have the money to. They don't have the budget for it.
That's overall.
I would definitely suggest if you can get some management classes and things like that, that will help bolster yours, because almost any industry you go into, they'll need some type of management, and if you want to move up, those type of things will help you. That's helped me, and so I've been able to take on other tasks that if I had limited it, I would have been able to.
Other than doing more internships, what classes do you wish you would have taken to prepare yourself for your careers that you have now that you didn't take?
I wish I had taken more of the marketing finance classes. And that was sort of an odd how I got into the class. Was I went to the career services and I took the test to see what I should be when I grow up. And they said, oh, you'd be a great advertising executive. So I'm like, okay, cool. What degree do I take? And they're like, well, you can either do marketing or communications public relations. And I'm like, well, what's the stronger degree? I had no clue. He goes, oh, you should take the marketing. So you had to take quantitative stats to get in. And so I took that class for about 2 weeks and went, I hate this. It's totally over my head. So I transferred out of that into a communications graphics class, which was design and fonts and everything. And I was like, oh my gosh, I love this. This is home for me. And suddenly I knew this is where I should be. And it's just sort of probably got from my team up here. It's a work of love. You know, you gotta love what you're doing to make it work in this. But that was then what I ended up doing. But I think I could have strengthened a little bit more with a few more business class. Looking back, that would have made it a little stronger for me.
I would add real quick there, to promote my own class that I love. I just started teaching a class this semester called The Essentials of Digital Media, and I feel very strongly, having watched the industry and how it's changing, that it would behoove almost anybody in communication or any really degree to be able to communicate visually using the web. As a social media producer, I bet Natalie would be able to really use some basic skills that you probably already have.
I should enroll in your class.
Yes, for shooting, editing, and telling a story, and using the different medium for their strengths. So that class is 2810 in the spring. It's on Monday and Wednesday. But really, the whole point of that class is so you get the very basics. So you can walk out and use one of these cameras and be able to come back with whatever it is that works for your job. I have people in this class this semester that work for the university that are going, they work in PR for the university, and they're trying to apply what they're learning to their Facebook page and to their blogs. So it's really just kind of those essentials of telling stories and storytelling. But that's one that I wish I would have had as kind of like a base.
I would say also photography. If you can take a photography. I would have loved to have done a photography class. I didn't have time in my schedule. Also, like he was talking about marketing and advertising, because a lot of times right now you have to sell your message. There are so many different organizations out there that you can get news, you can get magazine articles from. You kind of have to sell it. You have to sell it through good images, good videos. You have to sell it through good writing. So I would say photography, marketing, advertising, those three things I wish I could go back and take more classes about.
And this just to promote Drew's class a little bit. I've gone to conferences the last 2 weeks, like they're where all the people who run union buildings come together, and the majority of the classes were on Facebook and digital media. It was like how to get your message across to students, to new generations. So you guys are you're as up on it as a lot of the professionals in it, or you can be. And so those are things that older employers are looking to younger generations going, we don't know this stuff, but we know we need to know it, but we're not going to learn it, so we'll hire you to do it. So it would behoove you, it'd be your benefit to get to know this stuff, know how to use your Facebook, the tweet, the LinkedIn, all those. Because there's a generation in front of you that doesn't, but they want to hire people that do.
I would say I have a couple of different websites that I subscribe to for blogs that are on social media. Maybe I can write them on the board and you guys can check them out. There's two in particular because there aren't really a lot of college courses on social media and on Facebook and on all those sites, but there's one called Social Media Examiner and there's one called, oh no, I just lost it, Smart Brief on Social Media. I'll write them on the board, and if you type them in Google, I'm sure you can find them. But you can subscribe to the blog, and every day they go on the internet and they find 4 different or 5 different articles on social media and on Facebook and on writing online. And they kind of give you a glimpse, and you can click on it and read the full article about what's new. Because it's always changing. So I'll just write that on there, and you can find them if you're interested, because it is more and more relevant every day.
Yeah, so I just got back from a conference in Maryland where there's Journalism Interactive, so we're talking journalism specifically. But one of the interesting things that came out of that was the notion, at least from those that were running the conference, that right now we have social media experts at media entities. So newspapers and TV stations have hired social media experts. But in the future, 5-10 years from now, they expect, maybe even shorter time, they expect their reporters and their new hires and everybody else to be experts. So they won't need the specific position of social media expert. I think that position is still safe for a couple of 5+ years, but the time will come when it's just going to be expected that everybody does their own tweeting and Facebook.
Yeah, but sorry, go ahead.
Were you going to ask a question that was along the lines of what they were talking about? Because I'm totally going to change the subject.
Yeah, that's one.
Okay, go ahead.
Stay on track for a minute.
Do a follow-up question and then I'll go.
I was just going to say, but if everything's changing all the time, yeah, sure, we're all going to be experts on Facebook in 10 years. But are we all going to be experts on the new things?
Exactly.
That's why I recommend this, because you have to read and see what's new. Like, there are so many new sites that come out. Like Google Plus, for example. It came out several months ago, and it's not really very strong right now, but it might be in 5 years. So it will just tell you also what's new and what's coming. Because you're right, we're all good at Facebook right now, but so we're always steadily growing on Twitter too.
I teach Twitter in the new class, just want you to know.
I should take your class.
And blogging, etc.
Twitter, I feel like, is kind of the one that gets behind everything. Do you feel like that's growing still?
It is older than Facebook, or not older, but it is growing faster than Facebook. It is used for a different mode of communication. It's more of an instant type of
Headlines,
headlines,
yeah.
headlines, quick. Facebook tends to have a little bit more content, a little context to it. But tweeting itself in the realm of like keeping track, just if nothing else, just to manage your brand identity, knowing what people are saying about your brand, because you can search those tweets, and out of the millions and millions that are happening every minute, you can say, okay, who's talking about me and what are they saying? So I would say, whether you get on there for yourself, with 5 followers, it seems like you're speaking into a black hole because nobody's responding. But I would do it for the sake of understanding how Twitter works, because I don't see it going away anytime soon.
If anything, it's grown, especially since Facebook changed their newsfeed.
Do you feel like Twitter, you have to go out and like find people that are talking about you and like follow them, and then they'll follow you?
That's kind of the game that you play there.
You find industry leaders who are talking about similar topics as you, and then hopefully if you follow them, they'll follow you back.
And like for instance, I try and teach the kids here that do Weber State News to go and follow people that are in the Ogden area that are attending Weber State, hoping that they'll follow back and follow our brand message. And so it's Twitter's. It's birdshot. But I use it a lot for crowdsourcing too. If I have a question, I know that I have 1,500 people that are ready and willing to speak to me at any moment. So I'll ask them, what's the best place to go for an oil change in Ogden or whatever. Find those people that respond. Whereas on Google, I get anybody. On Twitter, I know those people pretty well.
She's had a question for a while.
I just want to know what your class was called again.
2810 Essentials of Digital Media.
And actually, I'll put in a plug for another class that I'm teaching next spring, which is called PR and Social Media,
That's right.
and it's 3460. So you could get a heavy dose of social media next semester by taking both classes.
Is that one a requirement, or is it like just like an elective?
It's an elective. Yeah.
Elective, right?
And right now, yours is an elective.
Mine is elective now. There is definitely but it's going to become part of the permanent curriculum come fall, and it will be required shortly after. It will take the place of a filmed video class, and it may become one of those kind of foundational classes. I don't know.
Sure.
I think
It's very good.
we'll do just one more question because I know that Natalie has to leave.
Oh, yeah, I'm
and
fine.
a couple of other people, Chad might have to leave too. So.
And I've got to teach that class.
All right. My question, like I said, is totally off what everybody's been talking about. I've just noticed, listening to you guys talk about, the things that you've done and the jobs that you've worked in. It sounds like overall, the field of communication is a very high pressure, high stress kind of an environment. And I guess what I'm wondering is, have you noticed if a certain personality type seems to do better in your line of work than others?
I would say that both my husband and I thrive on deadlines and procrastination. So when I worked at the newspaper, I don't know if anyone's like this, but when I knew I had to get something done, I got it done. But if I had a few weeks, I would just drag it out and not get it done. So my personality is like, if I have to get it done, I'll do it. But if I don't, I kind of put it on the back burner and just wait. So I would say that's my type of personality, is get in there and do it when it needs to be done, and that works well for me in my position.
So the deadlines don't stress you out or make you feel like...
Oh, for sure they stress you out sometimes. Especially, like I worked election night a couple times at the Deseret News. That was stressful. But it's fun stress and it's exciting stress. I don't know. I think I thrive off stress. So I would say if you're a person who, when they get stressed out and you have a lot to do, shuts down and you get ill or your body gets sick and tired, I would say don't go into a newspaper or that type of position. But there are some PR positions that are more 9 to 5 and that you don't have to have it out that day. Or like when I worked for the community section, it was once a week. So I didn't have to have my article in by 5 p.m. so it could run the next day. I had 6 days. So there are things to consider. If you're a stressed person and it's going to make you sick, like some people get anxiety and worry, then think about that when you choose what you want to do communication-wise.
I'll add to that I have a dear friend, Marty Carpenter, who is the Director of Communications for the Chamber of Commerce in Salt Lake. He started out in TV sports, but he came over to visit us when I helped him set up his video production booth because he decided he wanted to add video to the Chamber of Commerce stuff. And we had a great discussion where he explained that his background in news and the deadlines and hitting those deadlines made him like 10 times the PR, like communicator, face of the company that, because he could set his own deadlines, and he'd be like, you know what, before I go home at 5 o'clock, I'm going to have this press release written and I'm going to shoot up this video or whatever it was he's doing. He didn't have to hit that deadline, but he knew that's how he worked and he was happy to do that. And so we were trying to convince my wife that there are other things out there besides news. And so he was saying, you have skills that you've learned in this industry that translate to almost any other job because you can set your own goals and reach them. And that type of drive, I guess, that experience.
So you would say that a lot of people can develop that kind of a drive?
Yeah, they can. I'd say they can develop it and use it to their benefit in all sorts of aspects.
It definitely helps you if you're an adrenaline junkie. I mean, there's, a lot of the things that I've done are very, there's an event, there's a deadline, you've got pressure, you have to please all these different audiences and approach them. And then there's some that don't. There's other opportunities that require. The job I have now is much less the adrenaline that I had before, because I realized I needed more time with my family and to be home and not out Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights, doing large events. And so the job I have now is much more relaxed, and again, there's more of a teaching piece for it, which has altered that and switched. I still have those, but they're much fewer and far between, and there's lots of different ways you can use the skills and the skill set. So, but I still thrive on the adrenaline, just not as much.
And I would say if you're worried about this career, a lot of careers are stressful. Like at Market Star, we have mostly sales positions, and I see the sales people just going crazy sometimes, trying to meet deadlines, trying to meet sales quotas and stuff like that. So in any career, you're probably going to have some stress.
All right, thank you. I was going to ask, before you all leave, if especially people might be interested in connecting with Natalie's recruiting if you wanted to put contact, email or Facebook, some way of, if people would like to contact you further.
I'll also
that would
put
be
my
great.
blog on here so you can see how crazy our life is at home. No, just kidding.
It's my Twitter.
Oh.
And I'm in my office over in the library, 73. It's down, where the newsroom is. Anybody can, email me real quick and pop in if you want to talk electronic media or digital media and future careers or ideas. Feel free to drop by, set up an appointment. We'll just chat about it.
And if you guys have any questions we didn't talk about today, feel free to email me and just put in the headline like something about we were saying, so I don't think it's junk. Because I'll probably delete it.
Because it is hot.
Because it is Hotmail and it's a really old account, so I get a lot of junk.
Or does that say boogers?
Yes, that's my blog.
Fantastic. Boogers on the wall? I'm going, oh, that's exciting.
It is exciting.
That's marketable right there. You can promote that. That's nice.
Okay, I'm trying to think of what else to put. I have a personal and a work Facebook, so I have to remember it. I'll just do this.
Thank you all for listening so intently. Made it easy for us.